Go4SC2 glory. Let's see what they can bring us. It's another best of one, and again, it will be best of ones for just another couple of matches here and there until we hit the quarterfinals. That's when this tournament switches up into the best of threes. That's when the action really does start heating up. But obviously, already round of 32, and the players like DnS and Stephano meeting each other, it's heating up a little bit already. You know, we've definitely turned the heat on. You know, we've started to heat up the room. It's just not quite on fire yet. To the top right-hand side in this best of one on Blackpink are Blue Protoss from Cascade. Give it up if you're cheering on DnS. Onto the bottom left-hand side, our Red Zerg player from Gamers Origin. This is Stephano. Alright, well, a hatchery first on the way down. No real surprises there. DnS will open Nexus first, though, and that is maybe a bit more intriguing to talk about right from the get-go. The choice here just to go for the Nexus first. It's a little bit riskier. It opens up his options in terms of does he go for a double gate follow-up. It's something that DnS, you know, in general, I feel, you know, when I think about DnS, he is the sort of player to get a couple of adepts across the map early in a game and to kind of go from there. So keep our eyes open, see exactly what the follow-up is, but Nexus first is, of course, going to give him that little bit of a boost in economy. It doesn't really slow him down too much of the rest of his game. You know, if this was something like a 12 pool, then maybe he's in trouble, but obviously Stephano going hatch gas pool. Stephano can't really punish this. He can't really shut it down, and so DnS will get away with a little bit of greed early on, and that can definitely help you to power up into a bit of a stronger all-in as a follow-up in the near future, for example. There's a few different kind of ways it can go from this sort of stage. And there is that second gateway as well. So as I sort of mentioned in DnS, the sort of player who does like to get a couple of adepts on the map. He likes to get them across towards the bottom left-hand side. And all of those bits and pieces. So looking to try and get some damage done here early for the double gateway, potentially. Double adept would be the major way to do that. And he will wait for the Cybernex core for that to come up and to get into action here in the near future. So Cybercore on the way, and in the meantime, we look at Stephano's side of the map. He's put out of gas at 100. He leaves one worker in to slowly mine up towards maybe a lair or so, or maybe an early melee upgrade, depending on how he wants to play this out. But the ling speed coming through is most important for Stephano. He's going to have that mobility on the map, and it's going to allow him to get towards a third hatchery nice and safely as well. Obviously, the ling speed doesn't help him just yet, but will help him to stay protected against larger attacks in the future. As there is the first two adepts on the way, Chrono boosted, saving Chrono for this as well, so DnS is really looking to try and pick up some early damage here with these couple of adepts. They're on the way out, and we will see this Cybernex core on the ramp. Obviously, again, is starting up Warp Gate, but it was delayed a little bit to kind of come down after the Adepts, and that's just how much DnS is prioritizing these Adepts here early. And will it be another couple of Adepts? He doesn't have the gas for a sentry, so I kind of guess it will be maybe just the one Adept to actually fill the gap in the wall, and then he's going to focus on getting the Stargate up and getting some damage with this as the Overlord comes straight into the main base, sees exactly what's going on. Very happy with that. Obviously, Stephano will know what's up in these early stages. And we are going to be seeing the Overlord backing away through the top side as a couple of these Adepts continue to move on forwards in towards the natural. As we do see, they are going to stop getting themselves a little bit of damage. Cancel the Shade, which means they're kind of stuck down here, but the Lings are nearby. The Queens are in good position. It's a really good defense by Stephano as Ling Speed kicks in to help with this defense. Both Adepts fall for just 2 drones. This wasn't amazing, but it still has other effects. You know, he did force out maybe more Lings than usual. He did still have a Nexus first at the start of this, and so DnS still sits 6 workers ahead off the back of those early 2 Adepts. Even if they didn't end up killing too much, they still did a decent amount here for the most part. Lair coming in on the main base as these 2 Adepts here do shut down one Zergling. Obviously, Stephano will be hard-pressed to actually break through. As Stephano just comes back in for a further scout in the main base, and he will be able to see that Oracle on the way as a follow-up to the Phoenix, which is just nice info. He's actually not going to see this gateway here, I don't believe, so I mean, not the end of the world. I mean, an extra gate is too big of a telltale sign. You know, if you just see one gate, there's no reason there may not be another one here as well, so it doesn't really tell you too much if you see it or if you don't, so for now, that's kind of fine, and DnS is setting up already to take a third base in the next couple of moments. As he takes the third Nexus, obviously he gets himself in that position where he'll look to create a choke point, the Nexus and the pylon next to it. The Adepts can slip in between, and as they set up there, it becomes very difficult for a set of Zerglings like these ones to actually come across and to get some damage. And Stephano, he is focusing on just kind of droning for the most part, although his Roach Run finishes in a big wave of Overlords. Maybe he just goes for a Roach attack here. His lair's finished up, he starts up Roach speed. Well, these are just Roaches to defend this attack. I mean, I guess he needs something. 6 Adepts coming over. But the fact that DnS is doing all of this off of a 6 worker lead still, it's just so insanely good for himself. Revelation somehow only catches that one creep tumor there. And we are going to see the Adepts do just shade backwards. I mean, the damage is already done. He's already forcing units out of Stephano. However, looks as though Stephano's not done quite yet. He's continuing to make roaches, and he's hiding them in the back of this mineral line. He is fully looking to wait for Roach Speed to finish and to hit with a very strong free-base Roachling attack. But look at this. This Oracle comes up, and he says, whoa, hang on a minute. Why don't you have a mineral line here? Why aren't you... Obviously, you have a mineral line, but why aren't you mining from it? Where are the drones that should be here mining it from these minerals? They're not there. And DnS is going to check it again. He still sees no drones, and you have to start to wonder what's going on. DnS has a lot of Adepts, which he's made, and he is still warping them in as Glaves is about to finish up. Stephano's looking to try and overwhelm these Adepts, take them down quickly, shut them down, and then counterattack straight across the map to get even more done. A Revelation comes down on just another couple of Queens. Not much information really gained there. Some Lings are coming in over here. And the Immortal starts up on this robot facility. The sentries will clean this up as well. I mean, that's important. Getting the energy up on the sentries to start getting force fields out will help a lot. Couple of roaches going down already. The Adepts will shade, and one of the big issues with the roaches, they're not super mobile, though with Roach Speed it will help out a bit, but it's still allowing DnS with the Adepts kind of shading around. It's allowing him to pick off a couple of units here and there, and he actually cancels the shade to stay in the main base, and all of this is buying him time where Stephano isn't attacking, and I love it. The recall out of there, and that's brilliant, because it buys so much time for DnS to not just get one Immortal out, but maybe even a second one as well as he prepares to defend against this attack. Stephano is down 10 workers. DnS just has to defend, and he's going to be in a pristine position. He's going to have tech against pretty much pure Roach. DnS on the defense right now as these Roaches and Ravagers continue to come across towards the upper right-hand side. One probe runs past those initial Roaches, and actually the Adept goes down there, so Roaches make their way into the main. This already makes this maybe a bit more awkward than DnS would like it to be. He's going to warp in Stalkers to deal with this, and that obviously is a pretty good choice. They can definitely fight against those Roaches somewhat successfully. Maybe they don't quite kill them all off, especially if he doesn't target fire down, but he's continuing to defend so well over on this side at the same time that I really just like DnS's position. The second Immortal took a lot longer to come out than I thought it would. 13 probes going down now. There's actually more Roaches arriving than natural, so Stephano is finding some damage. DnS, though, is starting to get some kills. He grabs a couple of Ravagers over here. The attack in the main starting to be cleaned up. And we do see this Immortal over here is being kept alive by the shield battery. That won't last forever, though. The Adepts warping in a position that will keep the Immortal a little bit safer, and that's going to be absolutely huge here. The 5-kill Immortal has actually had a great time just being kept alive. Great control by DnS. 28 probes lost, though. This really escalated a lot more than I thought it would. And now Stephano is drawing it up like a madman. He's going to be on 56 workers after this round of drones finishes up, and that's going to be a huge economic lead for him. But look at the army of DnS. Double Immortal, a third one is actually out here as well, and a Warp Prism on the way. There is no reason for DnS not to counterattack from this point. He's killed a lot of Roaches and he knows it, and even if he just goes across the map and fakes an attack, he is going to put Stephano in a position where he has to stop building drones and start building units all over again. And that's the last thing Stephano wants to do after he already cut worker production in an earlier stage of this game. Roaches looping back around again as the Oracles here will start to target down a couple of those Roaches. Phoenix lifts one of them up as well. And we'll see those Oracles continue to get a bit more done. Here we go then. DnS continuing to attack in towards the third base. As we are going to see those Roaches breaking through in towards the natural. Roaches attacking in towards the main base as well. Nice force fields as Stephano will lose a lot of those workers, which he's just been building up. Yes, this counterattack is good, but DnS, as he starts to warp in, should be able to get a lot done. And at the same time, he's killing off the third hatchery. DnS has so much potential on this side of the map because Stephano just doesn't have enough to fight with at all. He's setting up spine crawls to try and help him defend, but even that seems like a very kind of far off kind of effort. These spines are going to start going down. I mean, Hydras are starting to come out, but they're just not in high enough numbers. More spines in the high ground, and Stephano's hoping that this base trade scenario will be enough for him. I mean, DnS is losing pretty much all of his might, and he's losing pretty much all of the workers he has left here. Oracles are slowly getting the energy to maybe fight once again. 19 probes to 28 drones, but DnS has the standing army that can maybe still make this happen. And even if he has to go back home right now, Stephano's on one base and DnS still has triple Nexus up and alive. And that's the big difference. Stephano can't really just go back to mining happily ever after, whereas DnS definitely can. DnS is going to try and go up this ramp. The spines, the drones, everything is making this difficult, and DnS might very well just have to back away. I'm not against the idea of just recalling back home, cleaning up these Roaches here, cleaning up those Roaches there, and just getting into that sort of position where you basically say, you know what, okay, let's do it, you know, let's party. Let's get into that sort of position where I just clean up, you know, okay, I'm on 10 workers, but I slowly rebuild a bit because, you know, you aren't on an economy yourself, really. These sentries here are going to fight against this one roach that's still in the natural expansion. Okay, looks as though he did actually recall a little bit of his army, or just walked home, I'm not sure. But either way, it is back home, so you'll start cleaning it up properly, and so Stephano is done in terms of damage dealt. And again, as long as Stephano can't move down this ramp, he doesn't have another base to mine from, whereas DnS can just sit here on 3 bases and just slowly build that worker count back up and go all over again. Well, those roaches cleaned out, and again, DnS just sits down at the ramp, waiting to see what will happen next as Pneumatized Carapace from Stephano coming through on the main base. The spines are spreading themselves out. The Hydras are looking to try and pick off a sentry, and they very nearly do it. But DnS just backs away. I mean, he's got the sentries here to force field this ramp forever. Obviously, I mean, Ravagers could come out and try and shut that down over the Rotor, and it's gone now. It was in the natural expansion, so that's not here any longer. Stephano will throw down a Nidus network as a way to try and get back out onto the map to try and do something. I mean, he just doesn't have the minerals to even build up a third hatchery if he wanted to at this stage. I mean, if he really wanted to, he could use this lava to build a drone, build the hatchery or so. But he just doesn't have the money. He even has drones up here, so he has some workers. They just have nowhere to mine from, so it puts Stephano's worker count into an even worse position than you might think. And DnS really has been taking control of that income now as his worker count gets back up there, and there's no roaches chasing him around all over the place. DnS will back away. I kind of like it. It's getting to that point where it's like, well, you know what, half of my army is still at home. Stephano's just been sat here building up a little bit for a while. The Nidus network actually got straight up cancelled. Is that something DnS saw? It is. So Stephano cancels it because DnS is expecting the Nidus. Instead, Stephano's going to try a bit of a Hydra drop, and he will be able to move back down the ramp. He takes a hatchery to the top left-hand side, trying to hide something away here. I mean, this is the thing, right? Maybe if he'd killed every single pro with DnS and DnS couldn't make any more, maybe then Stephano has a chance in the long term just waiting and sitting and hoping he can claw his way back. But really? Is that actually going to happen in this scenario? No, I don't think so, because Stephano didn't kill all the workers. DnS had enough probes, and now he's 20 workers ahead. His army was always very good against what Stephano had, and Stephano's just trying to play something out here that can maybe save himself in this, as these couple of oracles are going to be moving around and looking to see what's next. Well, we do see that muscular augment upgrade going to be finishing very soon. The factory in the top left, and the Lurker den coming down. I mean, Stephano's hoping and praying maybe he can hold position some Lurkers and catch DnS off as he moves through the center of the map and walks over the Lurkers. Maybe, you know, there's a couple of ways where maybe something like that happens. As we see a Hydra drop coming in, it's a nice idea, but unfortunately it's not good enough as that Overlord is going to get pushed back so very quickly. And in towards the natural expansion. Well, okay, I mean, Stephano's trying to find some damage, and kudos to him. He needs to find something at this stage of the game. He can't just sit here forever, as we are going to be seeing the Hydras continue to fight away, and nice little pickup there to save them at the last moment from those couple of Adepts. They're going to drop back down over here, and they may just get the Phoenix, not quite, and so the Overlord's still in trouble. And now the Adepts underneath are, of course, going to pretty much sign the death warrant for those Hydralisks. They will go down, gets the Phoenix, but it's a small victory at this stage of the game as DnS continues to march across the map and continues to get ready just to push up in towards the main. Well, I mean, do you push up into the main to those Lurkers? Probably not. Maybe you can fight them from somewhat of a distance. Revelation will go down. I mean, I guess you can go now, right? The Lurkers aren't quite ready. You get up here pretty quick before the Lurkers burrow properly. It's not a great engagement by any stretch of the imagination from DnS. This is kind of the ideal scenario for Stephano. He's doing a lot of damage, man. DnS has just lost his army. Oh my god. Well, that's why you don't do what DnS just did, right? That's why you know, that's exactly what Stephano was hoping for. An attack like that where DnS just goes up a ramp into the splash of the Lurkers. And now, I don't want to say Stephano's back in the game. There's still 51 probes. There's still reproduction coming up. You know, charges on the way, a forge coming down. You know, it's not an ideal scenario by any stretch. You know, Stephano isn't suddenly going to win this. DnS even has a lot of money in the bank, which he just needs to spend here. As DnS finds this base top left, he's going to realize Stephano has some money which he didn't know about. He'll drop down and get himself a couple of workers. No, actually has to lift up. That warpism is low. He'll recall. Is that out in time? I don't think so. Queen gets the kill. Recall wasted. And unfortunately, that's another pickup for Stephano. Stephano is doing whatever he can to stay in this one. He's fighting until the very bitter end, but it is still not looking pretty at all. I mean, he still needs someone. He needs another fight like what he just had. The problem is, DnS, there's no way he takes another fight like that anywhere again in the near future, right? There's just no way that happens. I'm almost certain of it. Like, why would you let that happen? You just don't. It doesn't make sense. It really wouldn't make any sense at all. A couple of Archons morphing in over here. Hydras, Lings splitting themselves up and just trying to kind of block out any Warp Prisms or maybe just catching Oracles around the map. Little pickups like this, it all helps out. Stephano needs to take good fights if he wants to get back in. There's a Dropper Lord is looking for some potential, as we are going to have a few Adepts here, a couple of Archons, a couple of Immortals. They are just sat waiting to see what they can do in the next few moments, as we see the +2 missile attack upgrade from Stephano on the way up in the main base. He's continuing to expand. He's up towards 4 hatcheries, as DnS takes a 4th Nexus. Again, he's had the 50-ish workers for some good amount of time now. How do you come back from an income advantage like that, even after this plummeting army supply graph? Look at the difference being made once again because of the income lead. Stephano is buying time with the Lurkers, and he's actually going to get some damage done as well. In fairness, he's going to maybe even kill the cannon, which is nice. He might even be able to unpower, you know, kill off a pylon or 2. He's already killed 5 workers. He'll get some more, actually. As we're going to be seeing one of these Lurkers lifts up and looks to kind of relocate. Meanwhile, though, Stephano has nothing on the defensive on this top left-hand base, and this is going to go down. So this top left base will fall. Stephano is pulling away, and DnS is just slowly but surely having to start dealing with these little bits and pieces of attack over here. But at the same time, Stephano, I mean, he's pulling back to where? This base is going to go down. This base will go down. There's no defense here. Where are the Lurkers? There's only 1 on the map, 2 on the map, and they're both attacking. They're both being aggressive. 6 of them start to morph in defensively, and that will be Stephano's saving grace, perhaps, as DnS backs away. He knows this hatchery is up. He doesn't know that this one is here. As it stands, I think he just wants to get back home and deal with these Lurkers and get going from there once again. Some probes actually come back to return some minerals, and they go down in the process. Some Zals coming forwards, and we're just missing the detection. Finally, an observer arrives from those robos over here. Cleaned out the Lurkers, and now maybe DnS can focus on getting across the map once again. Still, this Overlord actually is still just keeping the dream alive for Stephano a little bit longer with this Lurker drop. But again, how likely is it to really get much more done? As the Lurker gets shot down by the Stalkers, that will be it. And now DnS has an army to go across the map with. He might just have to sit back a moment or two and wait, just to feel confident enough, because the last thing he wants is to overcommit, overstep his boundaries once again, and to somehow throw this game in this best-of-1 scenario. And I mean, again, DnS and Stephano, they're both very strong players. We have to look at them as players who could go the distance here today and Go4SC2. They are definitely, you know, perhaps one of their tougher matchups for the next couple of rounds even. So, interesting to see who will make. Obviously, it does look like DnS, but that's why he doesn't want to throw this away. He's got a lot to play for, continuing on through today's event. As we do have Zealots, Stalkers, Archons, Immortals, a few High Templar trailing behind as well. They are going to get ready to attack on into this location, I believe, as a couple of Lurkers unburrowing, moving off away up towards the upper left-hand side. Looking for a fight here. An Observer gets picked off, a Storm comes down and gets another couple Lings. I mean, every single tool in the toolbox is being used here from DnS right now, right? I mean, he's got the Storms, he's got the Immortals, the Archons. Obviously, he hasn't made the switch in towards Skytoss, but he doesn't really need to. But he definitely has every trick up his sleeve that he needs at the moment to close this one out. As we will see DnS coming down a little bit more centralized between the bases, thinking about which exact position he wants to attack on into. Another couple of creep tumors continuing to get picked off. A few more Lurkers here from Stephano on the way out on the top side, and just going to be seeing him cleaning up some crew threat again. DnS playing so safe, so careful. The biggest issue for DnS is he doesn't know how long Stephano had this base up for, right, before he found it. And so for DnS, he might look at this as like, oh man, you've been manning from this all this time? And that, of course, would have been a massive issue for DnS, and that may be why he feels as though he lost the previous fight. As you see those Lurkers setting up, and honestly, though, some Zealots just get up into the main, and there's nothing there to protect. If the Lurkers try and move forwards, this army should be able to cut it off, although he's actually just going to let the Hydras move down to go and start dealing with that. Hydra's dead under fire. Obviously, the Lair is in the main base as well. A new one starts to build. Lurkers still holding the front lines here. That's a lot of Lurkers that Stephano has. 11 Lurkers up. As we'll see, those Hydras will get the clean out. And a couple of Hydras counter-attacking. Well, DnS, he's got plenty at home because he knows the situation where he doesn't want to allow any counter-attacks to get too much done. Well, 6 more Lurkers. We're now going up to 17 Lurkers on the map. DnS has to be so cautious, so careful with an engagement. At this stage, I mean, maybe you do just throw down that Fleet Beacon and an extra Stargate, get some Tempest or some carriers, because why not? If you're going to play it slow and safe, you may as well truly play it slow and safe and get in towards that Sky Toss sort of setup, which is somewhat unbeatable for Zerg, who's just going to sit on Lair Tech Hydra Lurker. So Immortal is in a little bit of trouble, gets tagged by a couple of Hydras, taking some hits. And these Immortals, Stalkers, Archons setting themselves up. Moving around this side and thinking about where they can maybe go. Going to be having a Kojima currently tagged here. Feedback comes down. We will see this Overseer gets picked off as well. Lurker's getting some good damage done. Again, DnS is just afraid to commit in. He could have a couple units on the top side, maybe work his way through the hatchery. Stephano, 21 minutes in. He should not have made it past the 15-minute marker of this one, but somehow, some way, he's scared DnS enough to minimize him from attacking. Big revelation hits a lot of the Lurkers, but not all of them. The High Templar's trailing behind for those storms as DnS is thinking about how he maybe is going to attack into this position. Archon in the front gets taken down very quickly. Another couple of Lurkers behind, and actually suddenly DnS is maybe a little bit kind of surrounded, although he deals with this attack rather easily. That surround is a little bit weaker on one side compared to the other. Coming down through the center of the map, some Lurkers will go to counterattack once again. The counterattacks from Stephano have been good, and that's why DnS has been leaving units behind. And this time, Zealots are going to find the Lurkers very quickly. 1, 2 Lurkers going down as they try to burrow last moment. The Observer will turn back around, and actually the majority of, in fact, every Lurker will go down here. These drones up here have to evacuate because DnS has found his way around, and Stephano has to type out. DnS will grab himself the victory to push himself through to the round of 16, a 22-minute PvZ.